Mastering the hooping process for the Husqvarna Viking Designer EPIC 2 might take you a couple tries, but just like anything, the more you do it, the easier it gets. So I've got some great tips to show you now, great little tips on working this quick release area down here at the bottom. My favorite spray adhesive, 505 spray, plus we cover some additional stabilizer saving tips in the Embroidery Essentials online course. So if you haven't hopped over and checked out this online course that we have for you, please do so. We're going to teach you 15 different embroidery techniques, plus all those re-hooping. Every time you do one of these blocks, you're going to be good at hooping by the time it's done. So if this has kind of been a part of you that is not your favorite part of embroidery, I understand, but it is part of once it's hooped, it's done, and then it's off to the fun part. So number one, we do have a video on stabilizers. So just to give you a quick little rundown, if you're working on woven fabrics, 2 layers of tearaway stabilizer is great. If you're working on stretchy fabrics, then 2 layers of cutaway is key. And 2 layers is my go-to. I don't have time to wish I had used 2 layers. I just always use 2 layers. Trust me, it makes a difference. So today we're going to work with just the standard middle hoop that comes with the EPIC 2, the 260 by 200. And as I point to the numbers here, you're going to get used to those sizes, plus you want to see them at the bottom here. So start by going ahead and unlatching the 2 hoops from each other. And if you haven't already, you might need to actually see how far this black piece is sticking out. Let's go ahead and bring that significantly out towards the end. One thing I do love is that they do put a spring in here. This is helping hold it open and will make things easier when you go to hoop. So your outer hoop has the bracket, which we're going to set on the table off to the side here. The bracket will always be on your left because it will attach eventually to this arm. That will put this little quick release down here in the lower right-hand corner. Now, before we start hooping, let me show you a little tip here. So when we hoop, you don't want to stretch the fabric. You can see how stretchy fabric is. Even a woven fabric is very stretchy on the bias. I'd mentioned the spray adhesive. So this is a spray adhesive I've always used. Number one, I like it because it doesn't stink when I spray it indoors, wintertime, etc. You probably want to have a little area set aside in your sewing studio where you can do some spraying because it might get a little bit on the work surface around. Now I'm going to just be real careful as I spray near the machine, but first off, always give it that good shake and before you use it. Next, while you're thinking about it, we only spray the stabilizer. We never spray the fabric, so keep that in mind. If you think of this as Post-it note in a can, that's what it is. It's just a light temporary stick. I'm going to stick my 2 layers of stabilizer together first, and then I'm going to come back and spray where my fabric is. Now watch this. As the fabric goes down, and you can reposition it if necessary, that once it sticks, that you don't see, remember that pulling that I said, that stretchy part? Now that I'm pulling it as a unit, no stretch. That means when you hoop this up, you're going to find that you will not distort your fabric while you're hooping. So we'll put links below the YouTube video on where you can find 505 spray adhesive. Love it, love it. Next, usually if I'm working on something that requires perfect alignment, I'll have drawn a vertical and horizontal line where my center point would be. At that point, you're going to notice that your inner hoop, the one with the numbers, is what you're going to line up. Now, you can actually hoop crooked on this machine because of the design positioning option on this, where it doesn't matter that you hoop straight or not, but it's nice to be kind of in that ballpark. So usually what I'll do is I'll line up the little notches on the side, the notches in the top and bottom, even with those lines that I've drawn. Then I'll pick everything up as a unit, make sure my clip is open, and I'm going to just turn this like this so it's more directly at me. As I kind of come to match the 2 hoops together, I'm going to aim for putting the top part here into the outer hoop first. So I'm going to kind of get it lined up, and then I'm going to push down at the top. So it sits in there, and then I'm going to slide this off the edge of the table. Once it's off the edge of the table, I can kind of pull on that outer hoop and slide those two in. Now, if it's nice and easy like that was, that means you have opened this up far enough. If you're jamming it into, definitely start with that screw a little further out. Should be very easy if you need to realign if it's not perfect. But then here is where we close the latch. So that latch should not be super tight. If you do that too much, you'll eventually break it or wear it off. And then don't forget, if you do that, you do have another one, we'll call that backup, in your other hoops. You have one here and of course one in your larger hoop. So if you do break this, just get a replacement, but you're not done for embroidery for today. You can go ahead and keep going. So what I'm doing right now is tightening that outside screw until I can't tighten it anymore. Now, one more thing I love to do at this point. So you can kind of see everything's where it needs to be, but if you listen, hear that rubbing sound? I can hear that this outer hoop and the inner hoop aren't perfectly aligned yet. So here's what I love to do. I love to take my thumbs on the inside corner and just help push that inner hoop just a little past flush. So with that, just kind of give each corner, yes, you'll probably have a little crease or wrinkle. That's just because of the way the screw is coming together. That's no problem. It will not affect your embroidery at all. So after doing that to all four corners, now let's listen. Now it's quiet. So it kind of gives it that last little tighten and then makes it quieter while it embroiders. If you can still turn that screw, keep going until you can't, you'll get a nice little callus right there, and you'll know you've embroidered enough when you can do that easily. So here's the nice thing. So when we're done, we'll loosen this, flip this out, and we could put another piece of fabric in, and we won't have so much tightening and loosening the next time we do it, if you're using the same fabric stabilizer combination going forward. So those are just some things that will help you hoop properly. Again, check out the links below this YouTube video for our Embroidery Essentials. Again, we teach you some great stabilizer saving, so you're not wasting so much stabilizer with this course. I think that's one comment people always say is, oh my gosh, that tip was worth price of admission plus everything else that they learned. So let's get started in jumping into how to embroider a design from start to finish.